Welcome everyone to our session today with Merck about how they transformed complexity into competitive advantage with Appian Customer Success. I'm Savannah Beck, a Technical Delivery Manager here at Appian and the Technical Delivery Manager for this project. I'll be your moderator for our panel today, and without further ado, let's introduce our speakers.
Hi, I'm Karen Woodring. I work for Merck and I'm in Digital MMD.
My name's Sydney Marks. I'm a Senior Consultant with Appian.
And I'm Brian Bardwell. I'm with Merck. I support global quality, part of digital manufacturing, and I've been the project lead.
Awesome. Brian, do you want to kick it off and give us an overview of the problem statement, the background, just set the stage?
So with all the talk of AI, I thought it would print something out. So just so I can remember all of it and go old school. And Sydney gave me like 1 minute to get through all this, or she's taking my sprint points away for the week. So
Those are the rules.
see. So just so I don't forget anything. So we presented last year, so similar forum, and we're also fortunate enough to win the Appian Innovation Award. So this is the same project. Thank you. But a lot of team members aren't here, but this is the same project, and we're going to tell you the rest of our story. So it's been a 2-year journey. Merck, so also known as MSD outside the United States and Canada. So we're a global healthcare company. So we're focused on leading edge science to save and improve lives around the world through our prescription medicines, vaccines, biologic therapeutics, and animal health products. So Merck's over 130 years old. We've got about 72,000 employees. We have revenue last year of $60.1 billion, and we spent $30.5 billion in research and development. So that was all last year. So about 2 years ago, our manufacturing division started on a transformation journey. So unlike a lot of companies, we've gone through many different programs, projects, transformations. We started one in 2022. I got involved, and we went and visited some of our manufacturing sites, which reside all across the globe. So we asked them, what are your biggest pain points? Number one pain point that kept coming up, site after site, everybody we interviewed, deviation management. So we had and installed a deviation management process and digitized it in 2018. So we had been working since 2018 to make it better and better, but never really got to where it was really efficient. So with that, we took and started the first work stream in our transformation journey in June of 22. So with that, we were asked to set very aggressive targets. So we were asked to look at the entire process, and not just the technology around it, but also the mindsets and behaviors. So that was really important for us, not just to focus on, hey, here's a solution, here's an app or whatever, but also change the mindsets and behaviors as we went through this. And it was all the way down to our shop floor. So again, many different sites, many different countries, languages, time zones. We need a solution that's going to be standard, compliant, effective, efficient. And that's where we started. In addition, we needed data. So we had some data in our current deviation management system, but we really needed more focused data from what the users were doing for each deviation, which would allow us to make our lead and touch times for each deviation better so that we can continue to improve our process. So we quickly formed a team. So that team started from project into team and quickly became a family, some of which you see up here. So the team was made up of manufacturing operations, global quality, our digital manufacturing organization, IT organizations, and a lot of subject matter experts from our sites. So with those, that was really the secret sauce that was brought together to solve this problem. So along the way, we challenged ourselves every step of the way. So it was making sure that every time we looked at something, was it a transformational step? Not just incremental, but were we being transformational? Were we challenging the status quo? Did we challenge each other? So just like a family, we had a lot of good fights. But as you'll see a little bit later, the outcomes have been incredible from my standpoint. And just to give you a little flavor, I've been supporting global quality for a number of years in the quality management space. And this is really the first time that we have seen a pull for an application instead of us pushing it down to them. Mm-hmm. So it's been a very different journey for us. And part of that success has been with our partners, Appian. So with that, I talked a lot about family. There are some family members in the audience. So if you guys can just raise a hand, it's not just the folks on the stage. Come on. Yep. Who's been part of the journey? If you look around the room. Yeah, the four of us are getting tortured, but it's really a huge family effort. So once again, thank you for having us back. And Karen's going to walk us through a brief overview of our journey from a timeline perspective, and also the speed at which we've been able to achieve.
Thank you. So as you can see from the slide, we've had a very hectic pace. So we started in 2022, but since that time, we've done 12 releases in a GXP environment. And some of them are minor, some are major, but for the most part, we worked quickly. And how did we do that? Basically, our ways of working changed drastically. We were a totally integrated team. Brian spoke about the concept of family. It's very true. It's very true. And our family included Appian as well as our internal resources, which was a little bit different, right? They were our partners from the get-go. We used agile ways of working, and we really stretched even agile is what I would say, because we were collaborative. We were doing sprint demos. We were doing wireframes. Everything was put in front of the customer, and that feedback loop was absolutely constant. And we were getting that feedback from our global organization, from our sites, and we were all together at the same time getting that feedback. And it wasn't like we waited for Appian to come do something. It was just totally iterative, is what I would say. And a lot of that goes to, we were co-located at times, we were remote at times. So it's not even that, we were always in the same room, but we did do a lot of that.
And the time that we were in the same room was, the minds really came together.
I would say,
the magic really happened, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Brian, taking it back to the beginning, when you were thinking about this project from the start, why did you choose to work with customer success? Can you give us an overview of your engagement with customer success as a whole?
Sure. So when we started this, with total transparency, we did look at a couple of other options. So Merck has a lot of technology options, and we very quickly came down to our trusted partner, Appian. Who better to ask than the folks that essentially write the software, right? So I made a phone call. My now favorite account executive, Jeff Hessler, actually picked up the phone. I'm sure he is very sorry. And I said, hey, Jeff, I think this was on a Tuesday. And literally I said, Jeff, can you have a team here for our first design session on Monday? Jeff got a really good laugh out of that and said, I know you can't cut me a PO that fast. But Monday morning, we had a team assembled, POs, everything, and that was the start of our journey. And they have been a trusted partner ever since. So that's how we got going.
Yeah, and we've been going ever since.
And we've had team changes along the way, both on the Merck side, the Appian side with our other partners. And as you can see from the timeline, we have not missed a beat.
Yeah, I think it's all about that family mentality that we have that allows us to bring people in, get them working with us, and continue moving.
And I think on a project like this where it was so fast-paced and high value, I think you needed a CS to be the people that showed up and said, like, we want to do this exactly the right way, and like push back and challenge. And I think it added to that family feeling where we had SMEs that were wildly passionate about getting the right answer, and then we had developers who were wildly passionate about getting the right solution, and like that all coming together. Like every single person on this team wanted the absolute best application we could develop.
Everyone had the same goals, and you had very clear business processes that you wanted to be automated and refined. So there was never a question, if somebody had a great idea, it would be a great idea, but it had to align to the goals that you set out at the beginning.
Yeah, clear target metrics helps a lot as well, yeah.
And one of my jobs and the core team's job has always been to set the guardrails, right? So you can do a lot of cool things with Appian, and my job was to set the guardrails, make sure we stay focused on the target conditions. And job number one is we need to remain compliant to our quality management system. But also, how do we focus on that efficiency? And the key was Appian understanding our business process. So I'm pretty sure you're an expert right now in deviation management, whether you want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
But also, those SMEs that were part of our team were absolutely amazing. I can't say enough for the dedication and just the knowledge that they maintain, because they do this every day. Like, they felt the pain every day, and the passion came out in the room, and you guys made it a reality.
Yeah, I had one of our SMEs say to me once, like, it's not often that you get to like design the thing that's going to fix all of your problems. And so I think that mentality that they had was really good.
And because we used SMEs from various sites, we got to see that, maybe 3 out of 5 sites did it this way, but maybe 2 didn't, and they learned from each other as well. So, and then we were able to come with more standard work, is what I would say as a result of it. So that collaboration really fostered growth and the ability to achieve our target conditions.
Yeah. The cool news is now I've got a bunch of manufacturing folks with very technical degrees in engineering and biology that are now fantastic IT folks. When you walk into the room, you can't tell who's who in the room. That was like goal number one. I'm not pointing out which partner who's American. Everybody's in the family. And oh, by the way, you're not allowed to leave the family. So there are no divorces, you don't get out. But really, that was one of the keys, is they learned, we taught them, they taught us, and the sharing that just happened across everything. And now, again, a lot of IT folks are growing up out of manufacturing. I think they also have a new respect for what does it take to get some of these applications and systems to where we need them to be. It's not just, hi, click a button and things magically happen. So.
Cindy, from your perspective, taking a step back and looking at the 12 releases that happened over the 2 years, what are some learnings that you'll take away and that you'll apply to projects in the future based on this one?
Yeah, we definitely have talked about the family element a lot. I think the culture that we had built over the last 2 years with Merck was so wildly valuable that I really hope that on future projects I can take that same energy and encourage like everybody to feel like they can speak up and everyone to be part of it. And I think it's also a comfort with pushing back. Like, I think they were so receptive to us saying like, okay, I love this idea. Let's twist it. Let's do it a little bit differently, and keeping everybody open-minded, and also like staying on track to those target conditions. I mean, we'd meet once a week with the core team and be like, okay, the SMEs have like 8 great ideas, but about 3 of them align with what we want to do, and we've got room for 1. So I think having those target conditions from the beginning and like having that open communication really, I will take to future projects.
Yeah, I think too, one thing that I observed on the project was, when the SMEs would bring you a requirement, you really would kind of challenge them and, say, this is a great idea, but here's how we could do it in Appian, and maybe here's how we could do it even better, and we could, make the process even more efficient. I think that was something great that the team brought to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like Brian mentioned, how they became technical. It got to a point where the SMEs would be like, okay, I know you can do like this in Appian, and like I think you could do this in Appian, and like they just became Appian experts at well, of just like knowing what they could ask for, knowing what we'd have to like be creative with, and we're also super open to like, okay, we can't do it exactly that way, but we could do it this way, and then they were always open to that feedback too, which was great.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and they challenged back.
Absolutely.
So there was a lot of, no, we're not going to do that. And they would challenge back and go, yeah, you can do this. I've seen you do it.
Yeah.
And one of their aha moments was, I think we were early on. You guys were on the phone and they wanted something moved on the screen. And by the time like the sentence was out, the box was moved. And that's when they started realizing just how powerful what they had in their hands was. They're like, oh, it's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of the
and
like
they took
live
off
coding.
from there. It's a little scary.
Yeah, we'd have moments where we'd be like, okay, here's the interface. I know all of you have very particular language you want to have. You want everything aligned a certain way. And we would just sit in a room and just be like, okay, tweak, 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 tweak. And like that just sitting down and adjusting was really powerful.
Yeah, being in person and having an SME with a developer sitting there, building those forms live and getting feedback live from them, I think that was incredible. And that really helped, build that family bond, but also helped us with speed.
Yeah.
That and these SMEs were our UAT testers as well.
Yeah.
So they were totally engaged in the product because they knew how they wanted it to work and they knew what their pain points were. So while they were open to the solutions, they were trying to see if it would alleviate their pain point. Mm-hmm. And as long as it did, even if we had to twist and turn it a little bit, they were receptive, and then they could go build their UAT test cases. And because they were engaged with us in the development and UAT writing, that's also what enabled our speed of delivery.
Definitely.
Yeah, and from a speed perspective too, remember, we were the first work stream in a gigantic transformational program. So one, we had a lot to prove. This was built in 8 weeks. We were on the ground at 5 different sites piloting in 10 weeks, which was fully integrated with our ERP system. So the team then understood, one, the priority. We had sponsorship from on high all the way down, which was fantastic. We couldn't have done it without them. But the team also got a new flavor for how to work, right? It was speed. So.
Yeah, we talked about all the positives, all the great things along the way, and it has been an amazing project. But were there any bumps, anything that you would do differently?
So our ways of working did grow organically. When you put a bunch of people in the room that maybe aren't related in the beginning, the family's a little rough. So and we had all different levels, right? Our SMEs are on the front line. They're doing this in their day-to-day jobs. And then we have, I'll say, management, who has a different perspective of what the way it should work, or even the owner of the process who's kind of going, well, theoretically, it should look like this. So there has to be that melding of the minds so that everybody understands the difference between the theoretical and the practical. So that kind of grew organically as well. And everybody started to understand each other. And no one was ever afraid to speak up and articulate their concerns or bring any new ideas to the table. And I thought that was really important.
And you were working across different time zones, people across, like, globally. I mean, having that posed challenges too.
Yeah, I feel like all of our greatest strengths at one point were one of our greatest weaknesses, or our hardest pain points, probably be the better word. Because, we had so many people like coming and going, and like we found a way to keep the foundation of our relationship successful, even as people came and went. And I mean, don't even get me started about time zones. Mike's in the back, like cringing, probably similar. Oh, he left. Yeah, that makes sense.
We said the word time zones.
But I think because we had such like a collaborative energy, it made it so that even our bumps, like, we turned into our like strong points. I mean, there were so many things that we like bumped into that it's like, okay, we have so much user feedback, which we're talking about here, that it's really good. But at first we were like, what are we going to do with all of this feedback? Like, there's just so much to organize. And then it ended up being a strength because we were able to like take little bits and pieces from all of that and build it in.
And we're still getting feedback,
Mm-hmm.
which is fantastic. So because we've listened along the way and incorporated the feedback that's, I would say, appropriate. So we've gotten some fun feedback, but the appropriate feedback that's made the application better across all of our sites, we still continue to get flooded with feedback on how to make it better.
I think that's a good intro into our next question of what have you achieved with this engagement? Do you have any feedback?
Oh, I got another list.
He's got that AI paper.
I got my AI bot right here. It's going to read it for me. So no, there was so much when I asked, preparing for this. We've got a fantastic change in communications team, and they've been collecting for 2 years some of the feedback. So I just had to bring it because, again, I've been at Merck for a long time, been doing system implementations for quite a while, and I've never heard some of these things from a user perspective. But overall, I mean, when you look at incidents and investigations, from a incidents perspective, we've had a 60% reduction for our average closure lead time for our non-product impacting events. So just the application and the mindsets and behaviors that we've rolled out, we've reduced our lead time by 60%. In addition, for incidents, 70% reduction in our average touch time. So the actual time the user has actually spent on that incident for the investigation. Investigations just launched very recently to all of our sites, so we're still collecting data, but our goal is that we're looking for a 51% reduction in our average lead time. So we are on a trajectory to get there, but we need a lot more data, basically time, because investigations take much longer. So overall, from a global network perspective, we are on target to save over 100,000 hours. So with this process, and we've also seen a 40% reduction in our work in progress. So essentially the open deviations that everybody's working on, we've been able to reduce that over the last 2 years, 40%. So from a testimonial standpoint, there's some really good ones in here I brought. I really like investigations. It is nice not having to spend an hour doing non-value-added work every time I close a QA. Next, the app allowed for collaborative review between authors, tech, quality approvers. So that was something that we used to pass Word documents around. So now we're in a very collaborative environment. Investigations has definitely simplified the process. I'm finding that my investigations are not as repetitive. So our system used to require a lot of repetitive information, cut and paste. And the stage gate approvals ensure we are not re-reviewing sections that haven't changed. So if you've already seen it, no reason to look at it if it hasn't changed. And Appian's helping us with that. So probably my favorite. It makes me angry that any new employees won't feel the pain I felt for years with the old process. Like, yeah.
Wow.
That has to be my favorite feedback. When it starts out, it makes me angry. I was like, ooh. So let's see, a couple more. So I'm happy the user feedback we give in version 1 will be included in version 2. Extremely excited to use this. It's nice to know that future employees won't feel the pain I felt for years.
A bit more positive, that one.
A little bit positive spin.
Different attitude.
User-friendly and efficient system revolutionizing the DM review approval process. So this was actually out of our quality approvers, which are hard judges. And lastly, feels like it was built for humans. Some electronic systems seem to handle things well from a database management perspective, but fall short in clarity for the user. Feels like it was developed with the focus on making sure information is presented as clearly as possible for the user. So all of this goes back to kind of our tagline of for SMEs by SMEs. So we started that early on. There was a high focus on user experience. So again, not forgetting about what are our target conditions, what are we trying to get to, and we absolutely have to maintain our compliant quality management system.
Something that makes me happy to hear in that is some of those things that you said are goals we set at our sprint 0. I mean, we said we wanted to reduce like repetitive data entry and like make it so you don't have to review everything all the time. So
And these guys
We hit our
haven't heard
goals.
this feedback till right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is really nice to hear.
Yeah, it definitely was. So that being said, what's next?
I'm going on vacation.
Jeff's taking us all on a
It's been an
vacation.
exhausting 2
Yeah.
years.
It has been.
It's been a great 2 years.
I know.
It has been a great 2 years.
So yeah, it's
No.
actually a little bit sad because we're kind of in the stage of winding the project down and handing it off into our sustainment and operations. But the best thing to watch is, again, the family and relationships. We've brought people across so many different sites together that even then in their day jobs now, they can reach out to each other, because from a manufacturing standpoint, a lot of these sites deal with everybody day to day. So the site in the US and Europe and Asia Pacific, and now they have friends. So it's been fantastic to watch everybody just grow those relationships, but also get a much better understanding of what it takes to make some of these business processes really run. So, and thanks for your help.
Happy to help. All right, so I guess at this point, we'll open it up for any Q&A that anyone has.
Fire away. Oh boy.
Check.
I know Mike, sir. Yeah, he's got the mic.
So, Brian, I came to visit a few weeks ago, and we sat, and we actually started by sitting and having a coffee with a bunch of your colleagues and folks. Mixed crowd. We were reminiscing about the time that we used to use stacks of CDs to actually load a laptop or a PC with
Not
Windows
diskettes.
and everything.
They're actually CDs? Okay, that's
Not
pretty
CDs,
modern.
Sorry, the floppy disks, so fine. And with that, then we split, and I went to visit with the team of developers, and they were there with a good number of roundtables, a bunch of candy, on people
Lot of
working
candy.
crazy. And then a little bit later in the day, we actually went to visit the elders. Can you tell us a little bit about that process that you spoke about somewhat, but what's the Appian factory that you were able to develop?
The Appian factory, from a development standpoint?
From the process of how do you get that process moving so that you can actually get requirements moved through so fast and so quickly?
So I think, it comes down to, we were hyper-focused on, so if I back up a little bit, we had a starting point, right? So we had a global process. We had a deviation management system. And that foundation was something that we weren't going to change. So that was kind of a nice start. We didn't have to go back and develop an entire new process. But from there, it was hyper-focused on essentially how do we drive efficiency out of it. So really understanding the things in the process that we could tweak, because there are some things that we can't. So we're highly regulated, highly audited from all over the world, and we had a lot of guardrails. And the core team was there to make sure, along with Global Quality and our other partners, that we stayed within those guardrails. But it also opened up from, I would say, the Appian capabilities, a lot of things that we could do that our current ERP system cannot, which made it more efficient and actually helped us digitize our QMS. So instead of pulling out 87 different documents to get through a process, it was, hi, we're going to guide you. And that was really how the factory started. We came out in version 1. It was a version 1. Like, it was kind of rough. And between 1 and 2, we ripped it apart. To Sydney's not very happy, yes. We literally ripped it soup to nuts apart. and came out with a much better product. But that was based on the family, the core team, all of that. But really the expertise too of how do we get this done? But we kept iterating. So it was, yes, collect the requirements, but it wasn't a toss it over the fence.
Never.
That didn't happen. And especially in those first 8 weeks. Does that answer your question?
Hey Brian, this is Ramnath here. You spoke about hours saved. Okay, you spoke about number of hours saved, right? And time zones. Okay. What would help is speak about the number of users that you had on this application, right? And you are talking about time zones. We are talking about a lot of SMEs, and we factor into single SME from a region or a factory, right? And friends in our Asia Pacific region, right? How did you guys go past the challenge of the language barriers that we have across the board, right? Walk us through that challenge that you guys had. That would help.
Sure. Karen, you know the users like the back of your hand. How many do we have?
We have about 5,000 across all the sites at Merck right now, and that includes everybody from Asia Pacific to the United States to the EMEA region. So we're at 5,000 right now. They're all active. We did the account audit. We know they're active. So yeah, they're busy. And now that we've rolled out to even more users, we they are using a feedback mechanism as well. So we're getting more feedback again. We're still navigating that through our site leads. So that's also instrumental. The site leads are really good at bringing that information back to us. And also realizing like what's important and what's not important. So we've expanded the family is what I would say.
Yep. And to answer your language question, currently we're only in English. So we started day one with a language requirement. So we knew it would have to happen one day because certain sites that we have require local language. So Chinese, Japanese, a couple others. We have waited for 2 years to actually do the translation. But underneath, everything is set to go. So these guys have developed in a way that we are currently in the process as kind of like our last release. Now that we've settled down the application, because every time you touch it, once you translate, you've got to go back and back and back and back. And we really didn't have the time to do that. We will be translating the entire application, all the values, the help text, everything in there, and then loading it up in the back end to enable those sites, probably during third quarter.
If I could add to it too, I think some of it is like a learning process. So I remember when we first went live with release 1, we had certain character limits on fields, or like didn't realize that certain special characters were used in other languages. So like people were typing into these boxes in a different language, even though it wasn't translated. And we'd get an error and we're like, oh, we didn't even know this was a character that was used in a different language. And our next release, we're like, okay, for these languages, they actually need more space to answer a question that we thought in English would only need a certain amount of space. So that still all goes back to like getting feedback from all the different plants and having mechanisms where they can share that.
Good morning. Sorry, it's hard. My name is Ferry. I'm from Appian. So there are way more customers in the life science space who need to cope with the whole validation demand pushed upon you, right? So how did the Appian process help you to improve or speed up that process? Because many of them say, okay, it's 50% of the work on top of the regular application development. So can you elaborate a bit on that?
Good question. Figured that was coming. So we are in a GXP space. We have an internal digital like SDLC. So we are using their digital capabilities. In addition, though, really all of the agile sprints, everything we've followed along and been compliant the whole way. So Merck has the ability to do agile and GXP together. So Karen, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
We're just using the tools that are there, and we're following the prescription of SDLC. We are not cutting corners. We're writing all the deliverables. We're performing all the UAT testing. We're doing it all. It's just that we're doing it much quicker because using the digital tool that we have available, we don't, like what we experience in deviation management, we're not copying and pasting from section to section. We're saying things once. We're taking a risk-based approach when it comes to testing. We're doing all the good things, I want to say, that you always want to do, but we have to do them in order to go fast.
And from a CS perspective, like we go through all the same Merck training on like what it means to be GXP as well. So I think that helps because me and my whole development team, like each time that a story is like brought to them, like they know to be thinking like, does this fit GXP? If we're not sure, we need to take it to like their core team and make a decision. So I think keeping it back of mind or really front of mind the whole time also helped us with speed.
Everybody's in it together.
Yeah.
For sure.
Amy.
Hi, Amy Barnum, Merck. So first,
hello.
great talk.
Thank
Really
you.
enjoyed it. I just have a couple questions. One about how you handled change management because your pace was so fast and your remit is so wide. I'm just really curious how you manage that. And also the feedback mechanism. Is that an app? Is that within, how are you handling that as well?
So I'll address feedback, and you need to find Lauren after this. So say hi to Lauren. He's with Merck too. Lauren, so we've had a couple different mechanisms, I forget along the way. I think one started in spreadsheets and then something in the app.
We started that way.
We actually now have a cool little Microsoft form that directly feeds our Jira. So as people fill out the form, it now gets dropped in Jira, and the fantastic team goes through and triages once a week and pulls out the things that they think are important or that are really going to add value. But if you're looking for more of the technology, and definitely go have a chat with Lauren. And the first part of your question, sorry.
The change management.
Change management. So change management, we did, because of the size of the program and the speed that we were moving at, have a set of change and comms folks on the team, which made all the difference in the world. Again, 5,000 people using the system, but we also had incredible sponsorship throughout the manufacturing organization, the IT organization, our digital manufacturing organization. They were sick of me talking about it. So really over communicating, but also making sure that your sponsorship spine was highly engaged, because this was not just, hey, I put a new app out. It was more mindsets, behavior changes that they really brought to their sites from a manufacturing operations standpoint. That was the key. I can make all the apps we want, but unless there's a drive to actually change,
And
it's really difficult.
We helped people adapt to that change too, because we went to the site and we taught them the app and helped them to learn it. And some of the site feedback that we received was, wow, you just didn't throw it over the wall and expect us to use it. So we give them that support on an ongoing basis. So like we run clinics where they can jump in if they have a question about the app and inquire, am I using it the right way? Did I do this? What should I do differently? So we take feedback not only through the Jira mechanism, but also verbally, and with a personal touch is what I would say.
We've got the SMEs, and even Appian has recorded like little 2-minute videos. Hi, here's how you do this component. And so all of those things put together have been an incredible change management package, so to speak. But again, the sponsorship has really, really helped us.
Do we? One more question.
Thanks for sharing your journey. If you could hop back in the time machine and give yourself advice for those first 8 weeks and then that first year, what would you tell yourself?
Don't pick up the phone when my boss called.
I think for me, handling, like how we handled feedback took several iterations, like Brian had mentioned. So I think getting that airtight right from the beginning would have been good. I also we have the family now, but I think it took a couple workshops to develop it. And I even had missed a couple early. And now I look back and I'm like, I wish I had been in every single one of those because they were just the most productive time that we had. But I really think it's just so many things that we learned along the way. You wish you could go back and say, I wish I'd known that from the beginning, but I don't know if we would have gotten there if we had been perfectly prepared.
Right, and I think that's it. We could have, if we had the time to set up all the tools and ways of working initially, we would have probably even been more effective. But we were running as fast as we can. It's like someone shot the gun and said, go. Mm-hmm. So that's how we ended up that way. And I think if you lock people in a room long enough, they'll all become friends.
Yep.
With a lot of candy
Feed
and
them lots
fidget
With
toys.
a lot of candy.
Yes.
This project consumes so much candy.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Great to be
please,
back.
stop by our customer success booth in the community hub if you have ideas or projects, and we'll be around if anybody has any additional questions. Thank you all for your time.